Welcome, everybody, to the very last episode of the 2020 season. Happy almost New Year, you guys. I'm Julie Alexandria here in San Diego with Jen Mercedes in New Jersey and Ozzie Gain Jr. in Chicago in true 2024, where we're all spread out and we're all here on Zoom. And it's the end. We did it, you guys. We made it. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back and also a pat on the back for you guys who stuck with us 60-game season. We did it. There is so much to get into today. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. First, I want to start off with, what was the best thing that you guys saw this season? What would you say, Jen?
The season getting completed, the World Series is what I would say was the best thing as far as baseball is concerned. That we made it through. They finally made it through, and we didn't think it was going to happen, but it happened.
Ozzie, what would you say, looking back, what was the best moment of 2020 for you?
Cash going to the bullpen, Game 6, pulling out Blake Snell.
That was the best?
Yes, it was. It was the best thing.
Best. A lot of people would beg to differ.
Well, it depends depends on what team you were a fan of.
That's
I think it was the best thing because it put everything into reality, into perspective. No matter how much things changed, some things stayed the same. It goes back to we are human beings. It goes back to interaction, the feeling. I think that 2020 brought a lot of that back. You know, I think that in the game of analytics, we had to really look at guys and say, we're okay with you not playing because of COVID. Okay? We understand that your mindset is not okay on it. I think players grew up a lot. I just had a conversation with somebody that worked in the clubhouse that said, this was one of the best years they've ever worked in the clubhouse, and it was one of the best tipping years. And it's kind of ironic because it's only like 30 home games, and you're under that stress. But everybody was so happy to be there. It wasn't a job. Everyone was excited. So I think that moment of him pulling him out made the game real again. It made the World Series real. It made the season real that we were still here. But I think other than Jen took it away, I think that having a season was incredible as it was, but that moment for me was the one that said, baseball's here and you can never plan for it to go perfect. There's going to be always some things that change the story at the end.
Of course. And I think this being an election year and in the spirit of reaching across the aisle and finding a sort of common goal, if you will, to me, the best moment of the year was when both sides, you have the Players Association and Tony Clark, and then you've got Rob Manfred, the commissioner of MLB, coming together and being able to agree on a season, with fair provisos and being able to move forward together. I think that'll be integral as we look forward to the 2021 season with a new CBA. And obviously both sides are going to have to do it again and collaborate and come together, reach across the aisle and be able to work together if we want to see baseball on TV again. So that being said, it has been a really tumultuous year and not such a good one by many accounts. So in your opinion, what's the worst thing that you saw this year, Jen?
I would say players testing positive for COVID and having to basically, not play the entire season because of COVID-related issues. Eduardo Rodriguez from the Red Sox was one who was diagnosed with myocarditis, and I think that was a very serious issue. I would say that's the worst. That's the worst thing that could happen is somebody being told that you can't play because of the side effects of COVID.
Yeah, and that is the scariest part of this disease is that we just don't know the long-term effects. And even though the current symptoms may go away, we don't know. Because I do believe he had reported having cardio tissue issues.
I'm sorry.
Hey, listen, in the spirit of 2020, everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome. Jump on. Ozzie, what was the worst thing, in your opinion, worst thing of 2020?
You know what? I think that 2020 was a year that social media blew up. I think that it was so sad to see so many guys go back and forth. If it was not only with fans, but also between old school and new school, especially in the collective bargaining. But just in general, I think that there was so much out there in the world of social media and judging. I hate talking about it because I think he did so much greater things than the walk-off, the 3-0 swing from Tatis Jr. But there was just so many opinions out there. Like everyone had something to say, maybe because we were, stuck in our house. Everyone just had an opinion about everyone's single thing. And I think that was it's just sad and annoying because, again, there's a time and a place for comments like that. But I feel like everyone was a little testy. And that started from the beginning of the year, from the collective bargaining to how the season went. It seemed that everyone was getting called out left and right this season. Hopefully it slows down a bit in the 2021.
Yeah, there's certainly something to be said for keyboard courage. Along the lines of what Jen mentioned with COVID-19 and having a heavy influence on the game, to me, the most cringeworthy moment was when Justin Turner of the Dodgers ran back out on the field after being pulled in the ninth inning by Dave Roberts for having tested positive for COVID. And he runs back onto the field and he joins his teammates in the quite deservedly so, World Series celebration that was going on the field. But to me, it was so cringy. And I don't know if you guys feel this, but when I see photos of people together in mass groups, I automatically tense up and I think, oh God, the particles, and they're all going to get sick. And that was this screaming moment for me. Of course, he is okay, and he is looking for a big deal from the Dodgers for next season. Good luck to you, Justin Turner, on that. But that was just such a tough moment to swallow for me watching it. I was like, no, in slow motion. But congratulations to the Dodgers. Well won and well played World Series. Okay, so let's talk about some New Year's resolutions, because that's always this time of year when we talk about, all right, next year's going to be different. Flip the calendar page, and it's going to be a whole new world. So for certain players, what would their New Year's, or what should their New Year's resolutions be? You talk about the newsmakers, the headline breakers, the guys that are making a splash on social media, from Trevor Bauer, Francisco Lindor. We're talking about, Aroldis Chapman, Robinson Cano, Yasiel Puig, guys whose names have been in the press and will continue to be in the press, at least for the beginning of spring training and early 2021. Jen, what should their resolutions be moving on?
I would say for somebody like Yasiel Puig, maybe he's going to be resolute as to the amount that he's going to be asking for. And at this point, it's almost like, let me just humble down and see what kind of contract I get offered. He is playing out in the Dominican Republic in the winter leagues with los Toros del Este. So I think that may be some new way of thinking for a lot of players, not even just Yasiel Puig, but I think a lot of players who want to get a job this upcoming season. It's going to be that. It's going to be, I may not get as much money as I'm worth, but if I want to play, this is what I got to do.
Interesting. So a lot of concessions will have to be made, you think?
I think so, yeah. Unfortunately, but yeah.
Well, yeah, unfortunately for the guys, right? I do hope we see Puig next season. I do hope he gets a deal. Ozzy, what do you think of those guys, or maybe some others you have in mind? What should their resolutions be moving forward next season?
Reality check. Literally, a reality check. Mm-hmm. This happens every so often that, unfortunately, it happened in the time of COVID, when the market reassesses itself and says, we've made some really bad signings. Okay, when you look down the line, Marcus Stroman's going to make $18 million next year. Okay, Lynn's only going to make $6 million. Good for Stroman. Whoever's his agent, if I was a younger player, I'd be looking to hire, get a hold of him. That's what the agent world is, and you can't hate on it. But there's always been guys that have been overpaid, and there's always been guys that have been underpaid. Mm-hmm. You need to make the best decision based on the market, okay? Baseball is already struggling in the sense, when I talk about struggling, meaning analytics, as much as those guys love it, and you can strike out now 700 times and nobody cares, they're also using them against you, okay? They know what you're bringing into the stadium. They know how much you're worth to the team, okay? So they're like, we can still have Manny Machado on the field, but we can have a bunch of no-name guys and we're still going to bring in the same amount of money, okay? They know that, okay? And that hurts you. Yeah. That comes from numbers and data and analytics. What also hurts you is that, performance-wise, they realized that there was a lot of teams that could compete. Tampa, again, low budget. They find the right guys with the right, the right fit. So a lot of teams think, I don't need to overpay for somebody. That affects the market. Mm-hmm. And now you combine it with COVID, already in a time where getting a job was going to be hard. And some teams are not going to have the money to be able to maybe, waste away $1 or $2 million. So what I would do is I would take a deal, okay, one that I found fit, and play, because if we learn one thing from Yasiel Puig is nobody's bigger than the game. Everyone thought in the beginning of the year that there's no way Yasiel Puig won't play for anyone. He sat out. I'm concerned about him if he's even ready to play. And that's why for him, I think winter ball is such a big deal, because everyone's watching him and saying, does this guy have the same skill set? When you're away from any other job, your skill sets don't take a punishment. Okay. But when you are playing baseball, the older you get, the more active you need to stay. We see Nelson Cruz training so much. I bet Nelson trains more now than he did when he was 22 years old. Because at his age, he needs to stay, on top of his game. So I think now it's going to become more of like a 1980s setup. It's what you did for me last year. So players need to realize where they're at currently and take a big assessment for their future, because you're not going to play if the league doesn't want you to play. Meaning they think you're worth too much, you're going to sit out. That's
you think Trevor Bauer needs to learn that lesson?
You know what? Trevor Bauer, and again, I don't want to take away from anyone from what they did, but he was a Cy Young in a 60-game season. Okay? Analytics hurt him. Okay? He was 60-game season Cy Young, pitching against the National League West. Again, pitching against the National League West. The runner-up to the Cy Young was also Yu Darvish. Guess what division he pitched in? The National League West. Okay? So when you're looking at analyzing, it's not that Trevor had a 5-year run where he's been playing so well year after year, and he's been a Cy Young runner-up every single year. Unfortunately for him, his best season came in a 60-game season. So I think it does affect him, because do I think Trevor, and he might take this the wrong way in his camp, do I think that I see him like a Garrett Cole? Like when they asked me, is Garrett Cole the best pitcher on the market? I said, absolutely. The moment the game ended in San Diego, in the World Series moment ended in New York, before New York.
We put on the Boris hat.
When he put on the Boris hat, you knew that automatically
right.
He was the best free agent on the market, because he had been doing it for 5-6 years. For Trevor, there's teams that are saying, okay, is it worth it? Okay, is signing him to a 5-year deal going to be worth it to us? Is giving him $45 million, $50 million for 1 year going to be worth it to us? Is it the right move? I think that's where that falls, especially now with his character. He likes to talk a lot. All these things are taken into consideration, but for him, he's not a solid guy that I could say, yes, give him all the money that he wants. He's done it 6-7 years in a row. And I know if I'm thinking that, I definitely know that teams are thinking that. That's why I keep saying the Mets are his best option, because they want to make a splash. They want to get Mets fans excited. He is the top free agent. I still think that's the best possible team for him to. So for him saying, I want to be in the West Coast, I want to be in spring training in Arizona and not in Florida, buddy, you're not Nolan Ryan. You're not Max
We don't
Scherzer.
know that he said that. Those were allegations from a baseball writer.
I'm saying though, even those rumors though, that he doesn't have that clout of he's not that guy, and it's not the market for you to say. This is not 3 years ago where we were literally following Bryce Harper everywhere he went, and his wife decided where he was going to land. If right now Bryce Harper was in the free agent market, trust me, his wife would be like, play wherever you get the most money. Because there might only be 1 or 2 teams. The market changed. So for him, he's got to look, if he wants to get the most money, he's got to throw all that out the window.
Well, you mentioned
I was just going to say, to Trevor's credit, though, with all of his tweeting, he did win best baseball Twitter follow on Twitter. I'm not sure who was the one that put out that award, but I saw that trending the other day. So
Jared Carambas from Barstool Sport, the fact that he bent his knee to Yankee fans, it was a disaster, and it's probably one of the worst things that happened in 2020, because I cannot believe he wanted to win that bad, and he still lost. But yes, but again, he's an exciting guy. Yeah. And I think that if he thinks he's that good and he wants to win, mind you, if Trevor wins, if Trevor goes into a team, takes a 1-year deal, and he performs in a 100-game season, 80-game season, and he repeats the performance, oh, trust me, and he gets them to advance, now he's not looking at $35 million. Now he's looking at probably being one of the best paid pitchers in the game. So, again, his agent's someone really fun to follow. She's really smart. So I think that they'll take this all into consideration. And people are not talking about this. Trevor's a big marketing guy. So I think that'll be a huge part of where he goes is, where is he going to get the most exposure? Where is his brand going to be worth something? It's not the same playing for Baltimore as it is to play for the Yankees. I don't care what anybody tells you. So I think all that takes into consideration. But he is the top guy. But again, I feel bad for him, because unfortunately the best year of his career came in a shortened season in a time where teams have lost over $200 million.
Yeah, maybe he can replicate. Maybe he can improve. Who knows if you can improve on a Cy Young on a 60-game season. But interesting that you brought up the fact about the Mets. We do know that owner Steve Cohen has made no qualms about letting people know that he is ready to loosen the purse strings and open up the pocketbook when it comes to paying for the best of the best. So when it comes to the teams, let's talk about New Year's resolutions. What should certain teams' resolutions be? Because there are teams that have the spotlight on them for making a splash for next season, no matter, on which way they end up going. So which team do you think, or teams, do you think have to really put it all out there and let it be known, Jen?
Well, I would say definitely agree with Steve Cohen, right? Like, stop pinching pennies. And I would give the same advice to the Yankees. DJ LeMahieu is out there waiting and waiting and waiting, and a lot of people are kind of questioning that decision. Hopefully, by the time we're on, maybe something has happened with that. But I think teams who have the money, stop pinching pennies. When you need those players, that come the end of the season, you're like, fans at least are like, I wish they would have signed so and so. We needed so and so. We needed this and we needed that. Stop pinching pennies, particularly the Yankees. The fans are asking for DJ LeMahieu. He was a big asset for the team. Sign the guy. Give him the money.
I saw somebody on Twitter said, well, if the Yankees get Lindor and they just add a couple of arms, it'll be fine.
Yeah, and Lindor is another one, right, that we're talking about as far as players' resolutions, but team resolutions. Someone needs to get him, right? I mean, you have a top quality player in Francisco Lindor, so stop pinching pennies again. I mean, they're going to wait until the last moment to try and really just lower his value, his trade value. At that, I believe. Yeah. I think that's kind of what's taking the longest. Ozzy, I don't know what you think, but I think this is obviously, it's all a business, right? And everybody's going to try and lower each player's value and trade value as much as they can, so that the team that's trading assets can trade as little as possible.
Right, optimization. Ozzy, do you think which team, in your opinion, needs to make a resolution to do whatever it is?
I think the San Diego Padres need to realize who they are and what they want to become. Everyone talks about windows and windows opening and closing, and they look at the Dodgers, for example. They've had a huge window, but it took them a while to win a World Series. You got to strike while the iron is hot. Before the show, I was looking at the top 5 MVP voting, and those two gentlemen right there, they were on there for the National League. Yeah. This is their moment. This is their spot. They're healthy. You made a move for Clevenger last year. Maybe it is Trevor Bauer that you go for it. I don't know the general manager and his relationship with the owner, but he can't be thinking about 5, 6, 7 years on the road. He needs to be thinking about next year and doing it fast. And the Padres fans responded. I know, and I would be trying to sell myself to the owner, as soon as those gates are open, we're going to sell out. They're that team. And the other team like that is the Chicago White Sox. They got the window open. They got the guys. I hear fans saying, oh, whoa, 5, 6, 7 years. You can't do that. The Cubs did that. They won a ring. They went to the playoffs the next 4 years in a row. Now they're making changes. And the last resolution I want to do is to the Indians. Now the Cleveland team, can get used to calling them the Cleveland team. Don't give up Lindor. You let Santana go. Go find yourself a hard-hitting first baseman. Kyle Schwarberg's available. And go compete for the division. Go for it. And then you don't sign Lindor, don't worry about it. I don't want them to not go for it this year. And there's the MVP of that team that no one talks about him because he's not as outgoing. Jose Ramirez is a stud. But they have the pitching. Go for it and compete. I hate that they're going into saying is, when are we going to move Lindor? I would have a conversation with Lindor and say, buddy, you don't want to sign here. We can't afford you. Leave Cleveland in a high note. Let's go win a championship. And maybe if they're in the pennant race or they're not in the pennant race, let that factor get decided in the middle of the season. But if I was a general manager, I'm going for it. So, people want to get something in return. You're never going to get Lindor back in return. So no matter who you move him for, it's not going to be for somebody that's going to be available in the next 2 years. Might be someone available in the next 5, 6 years. When you're not going to be the general manager at that point. And that goes to the Yankees. The Yankees need to win now. Okay, Cashman, Steinbrenner father is no longer with the Yankees. Okay, I know that you have a great relationship with Hal and the boys. The fans are getting antsy. 10 years you didn't win. You sign Stanton. You make the trade for Stanton. You bring Garrett Cole in. You fire Larry Rothschild. You fire Girardi. you make a lot of big moves and you're still falling short. You bring in Aaron Boone and now you're $25 million away from DJ LeMahieu. Yankees fans, that have different standards. You need to go all in and say, we need to go and be the best team in the American League. And if we get beat and we get walked off Game 7 of the World Series, we made it to Game 7 of the World Series. So for them, their New Year's resolution, there's a lot of teams that are under a lot of pressure because they need to be in that World Series game. They need to be in the American League Championship. They're not trying to get into a playoff. They're trying to play big. So a lot of general managers' resolution, assess yourself where you're at with your job because you might not be there end of 2021.
Yeah. And I think that goes to kind of what former Cubs GM did, right, with resigning and kind of he made his resolution early. I would say with that one, but I think the Cubs also, I agree, Ozzy, with what you were saying earlier. I think the Cubs are a team also that need to make that resolution. Are you going to keep Javi? What's going to happen to Javi Baez? I think, and there's a lot of teams that have players, that have been there, have been the face of the team, and are facing a lot of questions from fans and the players themselves. We see, a lot of Javi fans, they can't picture him anywhere else. What's going to happen to Javi Baez after this season? What's going to happen to Yadier Molina with the Cardinals? And that's something that he's been asking. I saw him, posting on social media, and we reposted it as well, he's asking fans, where do they want to see him? So I think, players are ready to move on. Our team's ready. What are they doing?
I'm going to give Yadi an advice, okay? And this, I think every player has to face this one day in their career, okay? Could Derek Jeter play with anybody else after the Yankees? Absolutely. He's Derek Jeter. Could have gotten a job probably pretty much any Major League Baseball team. Yadi needs to realize if it's a money situation, okay, or does he want to be a Cardinal for the rest of his life? Yadi has a dream of being a professional big league manager. Okay, everybody knows it. It's not a secret. He wants to be a skipper. His best chance of being a skipper are with the St. Louis Cardinals because he is a Cardinal. But to put the franchise in a situation where you're going to be a detriment to the team 3, 4, 5 years down the road, they cannot make the exception for Yadi when they signed him for a lot of money when they didn't do it for Albert. Okay? Albert had the same crossroad. Albert Pujols could have retired. Albert Pujols could have retired a St. Louis Cardinal. And the Cardinals put their number on the table. Right. And Albert Pujols says, I'm going to, where I'm going to get paid the most money. And their separation was mutual. We had the moment when he came back to St. Louis and when he retired. It took a while. No, but I'm saying that, and he was so active. And I don't think Albert wants to be a manager in the future. And for him, it might be the Hall of Fame. And I still think he goes in as a Cardinal. But for Yadi, the Cardinals mean so much to him that the best chance of him getting into the Hall of Fame is as a Cardinal. The best chance for him to be a manager is as a Cardinal. If I was him, and I know no one knows his financial situation, I would say, do you guys not want me to be a starter anymore? Okay, I'll be the backup. I'll play myself into the lineup. Pay me what you guys think, but I want ownership to tell me that I will be in the staff, okay, when I no longer am the player, because I want to be the manager of the Cardinals. Put those things in motion.
That's a very good advice.
Because if he leaves with the Cardinals on bad terms over $5-6 million, I can see him not managing anywhere else because he doesn't have connections to other teams. He is Yadier Molina on the Cardinals. So for that, if I was in his inner circle and I had to give him a real advice, I would say, Yadi, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, honestly, bro, like literally in 5 years, like where do you want to be? Because you're a Cardinal. But if you want to be managing or coaching, you got to start thinking about, do I really want to burn this bridge and have another 5-6 years go down the line where we don't get along, when it's not a good situation, when in reality you could have stayed there the whole time? So a lot of players have to sit down and really think with their families of like, where do I want to be? Like, where do I want to, where do I want to go? Like, what's my next career step? And I love when teams like have walked away with guys and said, we can't afford you. So I really think that he needs to really look into his future because I think more than just as a player is in the game. I think the legacy of Yadier Molina is in the balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have so many storylines to follow, which we will look forward to doing in 2021. But before we go, just a quick look back, and I wanted to ask you guys, Compared to New Year's Eve past, how will this one level up as far as your plans and your outlook for 2021? Jen, what do you plan on doing on December 31st?
I'll be home. We used to go to one of my mom's cousin's house, and that's where every New Year for the past I'd say 10 years we've been going to her house for New Year's, and we all kind of just go in. It's a small house, so we're all packed in there together, having fun, dancing and singing and eating and drinking. That's not going to happen this year, unfortunately. It is what it is, and we are not going to expose ourselves or expose others to this COVID thing.
Oh, there you are. Yes, having a good time.
And my mom, but yeah, it's going to be different. We're going to be home, but you know what? The fact that we get to celebrate another New Year is always a blessing.
Absolutely. Now, wait, that wasn't you. That was your mom.
Yeah, that was my mom and my sister, and then this is me and the black dress.
There you go. Love it.
Yeah.
Ozzy, what are you guys going to be up to? You got the
family. The games are always together, so we're going to probably be together a little bit more dressed up. But, there's been additions to the family. New Year's this year, we'll have my son in the picture. We're just blessed. We're blessed that we get to spend time here. We're not, we haven't lost anyone in our family due to the situation, which I know a lot of families are going to, be dealing with that because of the situation. Maybe someone that, departed a little bit too soon because of the disease that we're fighting. So we're just very grateful. We're grateful that another year ends. I always feel that New Year's gives you, it's like spring training. It gives you hope of, if you hit 200 the year before, you always can hit 300 in the next year. And if you had a good year the year before, you can always repeat it. So I always feel like New Year's is a new time.
Not a year we want to repeat. Not a year we want to repeat those.
Nope, not at all. And I have to say, for me personally, I have had a lot of really memorable New Year's Eves. Some a little more snow covered, some a little more celebrity filled. Here's me hosting the New Year's Eve countdown on MTV, the ball drop in Times Square, because the only way to do Times Square New Year's Eve is from a television studio 4 stories above Times Square.
Oh, that's such an awesome picture, Julie.
There we go.
Oh man.
By the way, thank you. By the way, not to date myself here, but the special guest that year that I hosted was the cast of the Jersey Shore.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a lot. Look, those are the memories that you cherish and you create other memories. This year we're creating other memories, and hopefully next year it'll be, something that we are either more used to, or just whatever it is that you feel like doing, celebrating New Year's, do it. You know what? It is YOLO.
YOLO, that's it. You only got one life. Well, we thank you for joining us and sticking with us this entire crazy year, unpredictable, unprecedented at best, of 2020. And we look forward to bringing you much more coverage and storylines and all the best in baseball and culture and everything in between in 2021. Stay safe, stay blessed, and we'll see you next year.